The government needs to attract investment. And how do you attract investment if people are not coming here? So I think oftentimes people make it one or the other. All this money that they're using, they should use it and put it in development. But if they develop and nobody comes, nobody knows that we play any sports. It's when people come that you bring in the funding to be able to do development. So I think they're doing the right thing. I also think we saw some great basketball from Osborne Shema, who's basically everywhere on both sides of the court.
Once you bring Osborne, I will be a fan of Kepler.
I mean, I would love to bring Osborne myself.
Another welcome to the CNP podcast. I'm Victor Toziba, and today I'm very honored to be with Miss Nathalie Munyampenda. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
Nathalie is a Rwandan that was born in DR Congo, and she pursued her high school and university degrees from Canada. She also went to the US for her master's degree, and she served for some time for the Rwandan Foreign Affairs Ministry, I believe. She also worked for an organization called AIMS, and she's currently a CEO of Kepler, a university that is based in Rwanda. She's also a senior cadre of RPF. I believe you connect me to President Kagame, and I host him next.
I'm not sure about that.
Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
So to start off, who would be your top 5 players for the previous Rwandan playoffs? The top 5.
Top 5 in the playoffs. You're starting off.
I believe at least you include a single player from Kepler.
Of course, we have to start with Kepler. I think we call him CB, but Chad Bowie is a great player and has grit. He plays all 40 minutes. Great player with strong fundamentals.
He's also the MVP, I believe.
He was the MVP of the regular season. Yeah. In the playoffs, we saw. Miller was a great player. That's why he's now playing back in the US.
Yeah.
I really like the way. I'm a big fan of Gaston Dieudonné because of what he brings on the floor beyond his position. I also think we saw some great basketball from Osborne Shema, who's basically everywhere on both sides of the court.
Once you bring Osborne, I will be a fan of Kepler.
I would love to bring Osborne myself. And then I think we saw some great playing as well from a lot of players in the playoffs. I would say maybe the last spot would be if we're talking about the Patriots, Stefan played really well as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And recently I came across a research report that showed a rise in the numbers of drug use in young people. So I believe it's a concern to you as your CEO of a school. So what are some of the measures you take for that issue?
For drug use?
Yeah.
At Kepler, we have a zero tolerance for drug use. So it's just as simple as that. I think at school and especially in athletics, I think has been some tolerance over time, but I have a zero tolerance policy and everybody's aware of it. I think that the kind of drugs that we see, the most one is weed. Weed, for me, you cannot play at the highest level because you need to be, your adrenaline needs to be high, you need to be making fast decisions, and weed slows you down. So I just think that even from a fundamental perspective, it's not good for the game. And so I have a zero tolerance. Once we find out, particularly on our campus, you exit our campus. But yeah, it's simple as that. I also think that the rise in drug use is mostly related to unemployment and having idle time. So I think that young teenagers, we need to do more to bring them activities to do, whether in sports, whether social activities that don't include alcohol, don't include drug abuse, so that they can see that there's so many other things. When we were growing up, we had so many activities. Nobody ever thought about, doing raves or parties or alcohol, or we had so many other things that we were doing together dancing, we had dance groups, we had so many things, and we need to bring that back, because when people are idle, that's when you pick up really bad habits.
Also, as a follow-up question, many universities in Rwanda tend to restrict Christian communities to operate from campus, which I believe Christian communities are just exposing young people to Christ, which I believe is also a solution to that. Why do you think is that?
Actually, Kepler is a non-religious school, and I think that people need to understand the difference. We are a non-religious school. You come to school to study. You keep your personal beliefs to yourself. We have Muslims at Kepler. We have atheists at Kepler. We have many religions and many beliefs. We have a code of conduct for students, and that is ethical. It applies to all students, and we want them to keep it. What you want to do in terms of your faith, you can do it, but you cannot ask for any special treatment. So I say that all the time. You can pray as a group. You can have a group of prayers of students that you pray with, and that's great. But I don't believe that the school should provide any special accommodation to you, as we don't for anybody else. I think, and the other thing is, I think one of my personal beliefs as someone who is actually a practicing Christian is that a lot of time is wasted by not by prayer, but by thinking that prayer will solve problems that you should be solving yourself. And so I want young people to build skills that work well with faith. So faith should build on something. And a lot of times we have learned and that's why we have so many false prophets and people who come and steal money from people, because you put your hope in something without doing the work. And I think the president always says that, work and then faith will build on that.
Yeah, but students are freely they're free to
students have always been free. I mean, they're free to play soccer. They're free to pray. That's not a. But we will not provide any special accommodations. Yeah.
Okay. And diving into the sports topic, do you consider sports sector in Rwanda a reliable sector for investment? Also, considering that you've invested a lot in basketball specifically, do you believe it's a reliable sector, and are you seeing the results financially, or maybe the talent development and everything?
I think we've always had the talent. I think the challenges we have on the development side is that most athletes who come to basketball or volleyball, that's the fields that we're in at Kepler, come in really late. And so you there's some fundamentals. It's like driving. I've been driving for close to 18 years. There are things I don't think about anymore. So I can be in my head and I realize I've arrived at my destination. I don't think about what gears did I put in, how did I get there. So there's certain fundamentals that someone must learn very young in order for it not to be something you're thinking about. If you're a point guard and you make a call, call the play, and you're already thinking about dribbling, protecting the ball, there's already many things that you're losing because you're thinking about these fundamentals, right? So I think the issue with development is we have to find a way to make it consistent, have the infrastructure, have schools that are dedicated to these sports where the best athletes can go, and make it broad enough across the country so that it doesn't have to be concentrated in Kigali. So that's a huge issue, and it requires a lot of investment from the government, from families. It's a major issue, and it will continue to be the reason why we don't have so many Rwandan athletes playing around the world, because you have to be extra special to be able to learn how to play, like Yanis learn how to play basketball at 16, 17 years old. It really requires you to be a very gifted individual. So we need to make it as available as possible young. In terms of investment, we're seeing much more investment in infrastructure, which is courts. That's a key part of any ecosystem, sports ecosystem. You need the infrastructure, and the government has really taken the lead on this, not just BK Arena, but making the type of partnerships with Giants of Africa, with BAL, that allow us to kind of see courts being refurbished. We need to have more wooden courts, rubber and wooden courts, so that our athletes are not injured because of the ground that they're playing on. But yeah, I think investments are paying off. We're seeing more competitions. We're very lucky. We've had the last 3 years the BAL final in Kigali. We didn't have to move, and we're seeing that level of basketball. So definitely the investments that the government have made and organizations like ourselves are paying off. I think, any major industry requires investment over a long period of time before you start to see some of the returns. I don't think we're yet seeing the returns, and that's why all of us are challenged as organizations to find sustainable funding for 5 to 10 years before you start to see the returns. What's urgent is for us to create a professional league, which I think that is one of the goals of the federation, the basketball federation this year, is to create a professional league, which then becomes really about the funding, making it something where the teams invest and they get something back. So that's urgent, and we're working on it.
Yeah. In your opinion, do you see the government considering the talent development, or it's all about hosting? When you see the government investing a lot into infrastructures, is it about hosting or talent development?
Both have to go together. The government needs to attract investment, and how do you attract investment if people are not coming here? So I think oftentimes people make it one or the other. All this money that they're using, they should use it and put it in development. But if they develop and nobody comes, nobody knows that we play any sports. It's when people come that you bring in the funding to be able to do development. So I think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And some basketball players worldwide secure high value contracts, and after their career, they face, I would say, they go broke. And I believe that's poor planning, financial planning, and everything. So, is it something you consider for these local players, or you're just giving them the paychecks?
So one thing you have to know is athletes who are getting a professional contract are adults. We do not get to say to them, we're giving you this money, but you must use it this way. So I think we don't treat athletes as children, right? But I think in general, financial literacy has gone up everywhere in the world. I wouldn't say that there are very few athletes now in the NBA who go broke. There's even a whole department in charge of players that helps them with financial literacy, mental health, drug abuse, everything. So I think we need to do the same. I think very few players today are making enough money that they have much to squander. I think many are still making enough to live. So it's important to do financial literacy, but it's not a problem. I would say that you're right that many athletes have gone broke, particularly in football. And that's actually why at Kepler we focus on education with sports, right? We want to equip our athletes with a pathway out after they play. Whether they're injured or whether they retire, they can become something else completely and have a career and do very well. That's exactly why we started sports at Kepler, because I want to marry the top professional athleticism with an education that is world class that they can use for the rest of their lives.
And what's the philosophy behind that? Bringing in players, and then you're also giving them education and everything?
I mean, it's simple. We're not the first to do it. It's done everywhere around the world. I mean, we are building ourselves as a sports university, and by sports we mean we do many other things, but we're going to be known for sports. Athletes, they pass the same tests like everybody else, so they don't get. I think sometimes people think that they get special treatment. It's that we detect someone's talent. We'd say that this person, we have tryouts, right? Tryouts, we see, this person is very good at basketball, very good at volleyball, and then we have different categories of scholarships, but they still have to pass all the tests for the education-wise. So they have to have graduated high school with a certain percentage as everybody else, and they do the tests like everybody else. So we want to make sure that they understand that they're here to study. We have the same requirements for them to pass school like everybody else. So they are getting the benefit of a full scholarship, but in return they have to do school like everyone else.
Okay.
And we're not the first to do it. There are many, almost every school in the US has this kind of program.
And my last question to you will be, Do you support the idea of bringing in international players, many international players, or the idea of limiting international players and giving a chance to local players?
It's a tough question. If you want to win, it's always nice to have access to international talent. But I think what we've decided to do, which is in basketball limited to 2 on the roster, and in volleyball 3, I think it's the right thing for now. It's difficult for us as owners, but I think it's important for us to invest the same amount of money that we do in foreign players in developing local players. And in my opinion, in the next, if we continue the way we're doing and we continue investing in our development, in 5 to 10 years, it will be the same. We'll have the same type of talent here than we have anywhere else. We're already seeing it. Like sometimes we bring foreign players and you're very disappointed in the ethics, in the behavior, in the discipline. So yeah, I think, in my opinion, in a few years we won't have that discussion.
Yeah. And the last time I saw your interview, your team made it to the playoffs for the first time playing in the D1. And what are your missions now? What are you targeting? The BAL?
I mean, I always say this: no team owner invests with the idea that you're going to be second or third. Yeah, this year we're in all our teams we're competing for the title. We wanna get to the final, and then we can talk.
Go like that. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.